this morning as we get into the realm to have a conversation, to talk, to speak, and to, should I say, rub minds, as it were. This is Lagos Talks. It's an interactive session, so please join us on the conversation by sharing your thoughts with us on WhatsApp on 0809 440 981. 0809 440 981 is the WhatsApp number. The studio line, if you want to give us a ring and talk to us, is 0201 4489 981 0201 4489 981. And today we're going to be talking about the benefits of decluttering for mental health. Now, a lot of people when they hear declutter, the first thing that comes to my mind is people are jackbuying. That's the first thing that usually comes to mind. And in all honesty, because it's been used so very often, that's the first thing that comes to my mind as well. Somebody wants to jackpot, so they need to sell off their items, their furniture, their cars, so on and so forth. But it goes beyond anybody who is going to jackpot. Now, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people out there at one point or another have had their homes full of all sorts of things, trinkets, and more or less things that they don't use or haven't used in a long time. And everything is just all packed together, it's jammed up, there's no space to even fling a turkey, as it were, within that house. And sometimes you just need to clear things out to make sense of a whole lot of things. That is why we are here right now to talk about this. And I have two absolutely amazing women to, should I say, shed more light on this and give us clarity on the conversation. So I'll introduce them one after the other. First of all, I have with me in the studio Tolulope Alade. Now, she's a certified accountant and a project management professional as well. But more importantly, her passion for giving back and community building inspired her to set up a foundation with its anchor project, Generous Meal Welfare Initiative, which involves picking up fairly used clothing uh, items from donors across Lagos and Abuja for distribution to the less privileged in these cities. Now, that is an amazing, selfless thing, if I can say so myself. Now, my second guest is one, the only Aisha Adams. She's the CEO of A. Adams Primo Limited. She's a versatile professional as well, with expertise in mentoring, coaching, therapy, storytelling, social impact. I could go on and spend the whole time just letting you know what she's all about, but I won't do that. But you get the gist about who Aisha Adams is and what she's all about. Very good morning to you, ladies. Great to have you on Lagos Talks this
Morning,
morning.
morning, Ayo.
It's a pleasure having you. And Aisha is joining us virtually at this time, but she will be in the studio soon enough. We can't wait to have her to, should I say, fully immerse herself in the ambience right here in the studio and get into the conversation. Now, Aisha, let's start from here. You need to start from the beginning and make sense of everything. We're talking about benefits of decluttering for mental health. Yes, but we hear mental health. Every 7 market days, mental health, mental health. What would you say is the simplest way to explain what that is? Can you hear me, Aisha?
I didn't hear the question. No, what did you say?
I said,
Sorry.
what is the simplest way to describe or explain what mental health is?
I would say that mental health is basically how we think, how we act, and how we feel, and how we handle stress. So how we think about things, how we feel about life, generally, and basically how we act. So basically our emotional well-being, our psychological well-being, and our social well-being makes up our mental health.
Okay, that's the simplest way. Now,
Yeah,
before
yeah.
I actually step away from this, I mean, in the last couple of years, the emphasis on mental health has been, should I say, very very out there. And like I said, I was just joking when I said, every 7 market days somebody talks about their mental health. Oh, I can't do this, my mental health. Oh, my mental health, and so on and so forth. I mean, 10, 15, 20 years ago, we didn't really hear much about mental health. It was all a case of, you know what, toughen up, do what you need to do, um, be strong, and so on and so forth. But lately, there has been such a seismic change in the way we think, and we know that mental health is important alongside physical health, emotional health, and so on and so forth. I mean, from your perspective, what would you say drove that particular change that everybody is more aware right now?
I think that there were a couple of cases of suicide back then, and then it became a conversation. I think it was really Gen Z's. I think it was the Gen Z
Mm,
conversation,
mm,
really.
mm.
But I feel like we are really late in this part of the world. We are late in conversations around mental health. I have a master's in public health, and my major was in around mental health. And that
Okay.
was far back, that's like more than 12 years ago. And these were already conversations they were having in the West. So I did my master's in the UK, right? And these were conversations we were already having in the UK on mental health issues and stuff like that. And mental health was already a public health issue
Hmm.
back then.
Okay.
And so I feel like we are even late into the conversation, and we are more in need of it than anybody else because there's a huge it's a needed conversation that we need to have more often. The discussions around mental health, because we don't even realize that our physical health that we pay so much attention to
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
impacted by our mental health. A lot
Right.
of physical health issues. I can give you, examples, like even cancer has been linked to mental health issues.
No
The
way.
more you tend to, talk up things, you do not talk about your challenges and stuff like that, the more likely that you will, be susceptible to having cancer. And then look at what's going on at the moment. We have an increase in the incidence of cancer. So the reality is that the mental health conversation ought to have started a very long time ago, and we are very late in the conversation. And it's a really good thing that we are now having those conversations, because it means that we can then lessen the body on our physical health issues as
Hmm.
well.
That is something very, very important. Now, before I go over to Tolu, I need to just get your thoughts. I mean, on why we're here, talking about decluttering, trying to make sense of
Yeah.
a lot of things jumbled up together in one particular place, to have some clarity, to have some, should I say, this zen feeling at the end of the day. Now, from your perspective as a therapist, what are some of the common psychological effects on mental health from living in a cluttered environment?
The first that comes readily to mind is anxiety. It spikes up your anxiety levels. Like
Hmm.
I don't even know how people deal with clutter, because like you can't even breathe. You can't breathe well. Like, and not breathing well could lead to, do you understand, breathing issues. If you're asthmatic, for example, how do you stay in a cluttered place?
Hmm.
The chances of you having asthmatic attacks, like, it's going to be more frequent. I'm asthmatic. I know that I cannot stand in a cluttered space. I start to feel like, I'm choking. So it has that effect on your respiratory tract infections and all of those kind of things. You are more
Okay.
susceptible to having respiratory tract infection. There is also the fact that it increases your stress levels. When you get home, what do you want to do? You just want to enter inside the house and just rest, really.
True
But
story.
then you enter, and then everywhere is just jam packed with all kinds of stuff. It doesn't even give you the space to think. In fact, I used to tell my one of my senior colleagues that the moment I start to observe that the areas around me is feeling more cluttered, I start to worry about what's going on in my inside, because I have a belief, and it's proven that there is a connection between our environment and what's going on in the inside of our minds. So, like, the more cluttered your environment, it speaks to something going on, something deeper, like
Okay.
perhaps a
Okay.
traumatic experience, perhaps a family problem that you had that you never really paid attention to. Because some of this problem of hoarding and stuff it goes back to family problems. It goes back to
Hmm.
an adverse childhood experience that you had that you never really worked through. I remember speaking to someone who was struggling with that kind of issue, and he went back to the fact that they did not have much when they were growing up. So every opportunity to buy something new and just keep it for the rainy
Hmm.
day.
Hmm.
What does that even mean? When is this ready? That the reality is that the rainy day never
It never
comes.
comes.
It never really comes. And so you find yourself just buying up things that you never really need,
Hmm.
because you feel like, what, it might just happen that I will be in a situation where the poverty that once happened to my parents is going to happen to me. Another
Right.
thing that
Right.
it
Right.
affects is your focus. How you are not able to focus, when you are in a cluttered space. It sort of messes up with your mind. There is also the place of irritability. You get easily irritable. Just observe people that live in cluttered spaces. You will notice that they have a short leash on their temper. They're easily irritated, they're easily angered, because they don't have space to breathe. They are
Hmm.
choked up. in the space that they are living, and it also affects sleep. And sleep is so vital to our health.
True.
So
Very
these are
true.
like a few things that I can, easily highlight that comes to mind when I think about clutter. It
Mm.
also leads to overwhelm. Like I think from everything I have said, you'll have observed that overwhelm is naturally a progression for being in a cluttered space.
In a nutshell, you know what, that point you made about people coming from lack and so on and so forth and piling things up. I'm going to come back to you because because that reminded me of something someone said to me at one time, and I'll bring that up and maybe you can just, should I say, weigh in on that. But we need to take a quick breather right now. When we come back in, Tolulope Alade will share her thoughts on this particular matter and the conversation will continue. This is Lagos Talks on your Love Music Love Life station, Smooth 98.1. We'll be back in a bit. You are welcome back. This is Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1, your love music, love life station on a feel good Friday morning. Having a great conversation. My name is Ayokunmi Kekereakum. And of course, my very special guests are still in with me this morning, Aisha Adams and Tolulope Alade. And we've been talking about, or should I say, getting into the groove to understand better what mental health is on one hand, and of course, the benefits of decluttering. It's never a good sight to be in an environment where everything is all jumbled together. As if someone threw an incendiary device or a bomb or something and scattered the whole place. And you begin to wonder, do human beings actually live in this environment? But anyways, we're all about breaking it down and making more sense of it. And hopefully you can take a number of things from this conversation to change the way you look at things and unlearn some things, leave some things behind. Because we have baggage that we carry around, true story. And a number of times we don't realize that we're carrying that baggage around. Someone said grief case. I really can't forget that particular word, grief case. But anyways, join us on the conversation this morning by sharing your thoughts with us on WhatsApp on 0809 440 981. Studio line is 0201 4489 981. And we're streaming live on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. All right, Tolulope, let me come over to you right now. I'm talking about decluttering, making sense of a scattered environment, a jumbled up environment. Now, one thing I will say is that maybe in the last 10, 15 years, I think things are somewhat different right now. But in many Nigerian homes, there's a lot of stuff. a lot of things going to Nigerian home. You see things that's the parents collected on their wedding day, their grandparents' clothes, their grandparents' artifacts,
Yeah.
everything is all over the place. You see garawas from 1920 something,
Cooking pots from
cooking pots
1960.
from the 1800s, and so everything is just like, I mean, what are some of the practical tips to actually effectively declutter? If someone says, like, I wake up right now and say, you know what, I'm tired of this, I need to break this cycle, there is too much going on in here, I can't deal,
Hmm.
how exactly can I go about this?
So the first thing I'll say is you need to make time for it.
Okay.
To even declutter at any point in time, it's like there has to be that intentionality. There has to be that deliberation. I need to do this. As little as 5 minutes a day, or maybe dedicating the last Saturday of the quarter,
Okay.
or sometime in October or towards December before the year runs out. Anything that
Mm,
works
mm,
for,
mm.
I mean, we, as individuals, different things work for us. So whatever it is that is convenient or comfortable for the person, but really just to start. And starting requires that intentionality to make time for it. Some people would say, you know what, every Saturday morning while I'm cleaning up, I'm going to be identifying items I no longer need. So I always tell people make time. And then apart from making time, it's also about seeking help sometimes, because
Okay.
especially for people that have a lot of junk and a lot of
Mm.
load, a lot of items, it can be a daunting task. So it helps to have somebody else in the room that sort of gives that emotional support, and then making it fun. So it's not just one person in the room bored and trying to get things done. I also usually recommend for people to make it fun. So if you're not enlisting someone, a friend or a family member to join you in the room in getting these things out of the way, if you're going to be the only person, make it fun for yourself. Turn up the music,
Okay.
turn it
Okay.
up,
Okay.
as long as it's not at a volume that is going to be disturbing your neighbors. You
Mm.
can be plugged in, have your headphones
Headphones and
on,
all that.
and all of that. Make it fun for yourself. These are some of the things that make it a bit easier, so it's not like, oh, this is a task, because sometimes people feel decluttering is a task. And we always, like, we shy away from work. We don't want anything that is going to stress us.
We don't,
Yeah,
especially
so
now.
no, please, there's a lot going on. I don't even want to add any additional level of responsibility and
Mm.
obligation. So make time for it. Start out small and then make it fun for yourself. And I also recommend to people that, for ladies, for example, we are having body changes and things like that. So if I'm trying on an outfit, it no longer fits,
Mm.
I typically just set it aside. So I have a corner where I put those things. And then
Okay.
after like 3 months or thereabouts, I'm like, okay, you know what? This pile is already full. I need to now do something with it. So
Right.
probably put
Right.
it in
Right.
storage, in preparation for like when I have more things to give away or whatever it is that I need to do. And then also just having a plan for what to do with the items. Do you want to throw them away? Do you want to give them out? And things like that. So those are some of the things that I would recommend for people to take into consideration when they want
Okay.
to declutter.
Okay. I'm going to circle back to something you said about having a third party in the room to, should I say, provide support and all that. Now, this third party, will they also play the part of being the voice of reason? Now I'm asking that because sometimes if you decide to declutter on your own, let's say, for example, you want to get into your wardrobe and take out clothes you don't need. If you're the only one, there is that imp on your shoulder or that fairy on your shoulder that'll be whispering, that skirt, it's 10 years old, but you look fire in that skirt now. Don't throw it out.
Mm.
You need that third person in the room to tell you, see, I won't lie to you. You look like a ball in that skirt. Get rid of it. The voice of reason. How
Yeah.
important is that person to be in the room with you when you're decluttering?
Very, very important. Aisha mentioned something earlier about how some people are attached to the items that they have. So sometimes it's difficult for us to be objective
Mm,
when we are looking at items, because there is an emotional attachment, there is a sentimental feeling.
right,
So when you have
right,
an
right.
independent person in the room that is providing some level of objectivity, I'm a lady, so it's easy for me to give an example of like ladies. Like you said, you're trying on a clothes and it might not even fit,
Mm-hmm.
but oh my god, it was expensive when I bought it.
Right.
It's designer. Oh my god, it's glittering. I like the way it looks, and I don't want to let it go. Or oh, my ex got it for me.
Ah,
There is also that. Or,
Case of the X.
So there are some items that have like that sentimental value, but you really don't need those things anymore. It's either it doesn't fit anymore or you've actually just outgrown it.
Right,
There could
right,
be that
right.
clothing item that it just doesn't fit, you don't look good in it anymore, or
It's
you've
out of
actually passed that
fashion.
stage, is out of fashion, all those sort of things. So when you have an independent person in the room that is like, you know what, to look where really, to be serious, this it's not it at all, you have to let it go.
Mm,
Or if it's something of sentimental value, right, there could be that, just that emotional support to say you can let it go.
mm,
And maybe we should even talk about, this emotional attachment to things and sentimental value. I typically just tell people, you know what, start from things of less sentimental value. It builds confidence,
right,
and then you
right.
cannot move on to the bigger things, and before you know it, it's a lot easier for you to actually let go of those big things. You might not even know, or you might not recognize when it's happening. You will just realize that, oh, this item, like, I feel a lot more comfortable now letting it go.
Mm.
So having that independent voice in the room actually helps a lot of times, and maybe if at any point in time, you're breaking down and the emotions are flying, there's someone to hold
That
you and
can
say, you know
support
what,
you.
it's okay.
Mm.
It's okay to let go.
So look where it says, channel your inner Elsa for those who have seen Frozen and let it go. Very, very important for you to do that. I'm going to hold on to that and come back to you right now, Aisha, because Tolulope has actually made some points talking about being sentimental and all that. Now, I'll use myself as a case study. I'm a nostalgia warrior, and I'm super sentimental when it comes to certain things. In other things, I can be very hot headed. But when it comes to certain things, keeping some things and all that, I can be very sentimental. I'd be like, is this the same person? Now, that being said, in a case where one struggles with letting go of these unneeded items due to that emotional attachment that might affect them and their mental health at some point negatively, is there a way they can actually overcome? Because I mean, that teddy bear that somebody gave me 15 years ago, I mean, I don't need it, but I mean, it's cute and all that.
Okay, so if you can gathering just when you're talking, or if you are just talking in new house, in case you're supposed to use the brick where you're using to store things that you're never really going to touch. Think about it. There are clothes in your wardrobe you haven't touched for 2 years.
Mm.
Yet, when you kept it in the wardrobe, you kept it there because there's this perfect time. There's a video on my Instagram where I did something along the lines of, it's important that you love yourself enough to wear those things that you supposedly have sentimental attachment to. And if you're not finding the need to wear them, then you should give it to someone who would benefit from it. So there's something they call cognitive bias.
Okay.
Basically, cognitive bias is like a tendency to act irrationally. And one of the things that comes to play when we are talking about the struggle with that emotional attachment to things is something they call loss aversion. So we are averse to losing things, whether it is something we need or not. There's this feeling of, oh, I parted with this thing. It's like someone died. And because we're a people that haven't really come to terms with the importance of grieving, it's okay to grieve something you have lost. The question really is, why are you attached to that thing? Are you attached to it because the person who gave you is important?
Hmm.
Because that's another thing we need to question. Why are you attached to the thing? Because if you're attached to new things, then it goes back to what I said earlier about perhaps you came from a background of poverty where you now have and you now constantly plan for the future, almost as if, you know what, I would not have money in the future, so I have to buy all the clothes I'm
For
going to
everything
wear
now.
for the rest of my life. Like sweetheart, the clothes you are buying now, it's not going to be useful next year because the fashion trend will have changed. Come on. So when you did not use it, what happened? And you know what is even ironic is that most of these things tend to expire, tend to go out of vogue, tend to
Hmm.
become obsolete, and then the question is, what? Why did you deny yourself of enjoying the good of that thing that you kept? Another thing is when you find yourself struggling with this, you said something earlier, find a friend. Let's not even long it too much before I go to being a therapist or something. Find a friend who is rational. Like, because again, aside from the fact that it could be that, it's poverty or something, it could be a family trait. You know
Mm,
how you
mm.
saw your grandmother keep the pot of her grandmother. So you now see that it's a family tradition. Family tradition is not there is no adding money to your pocket. There is no changing the price of fish in the market. I don't understand. Why are you keeping it? There's something called evolution. You can evolve into a better state. You see that this thing is not working. It's just occupying space and making a nuisance. Make sure that you are doing something different. So you need to first check what is the reason for keeping that thing. Or is it that there is a loss of a loved one? And this loved one, you're like, you know what? This thing helps me feel like they haven't completely gone and all of that. It's your way of grieving. Now that's a different conversation. It means that you
Mm.
then need to go into therapy to work through the grief. Yeah? Now,
Right.
after questioning that, if you have been able to identify, another thing, like I said, is work with a friend. Which of your
Okay.
friends is reasonable enough? Do you trust enough to not um, be lack empathy when they're working with you, but then help you do the right thing? Think about it. These things that you're hurting can be of benefit to a lot of people.
That is true.
Those 1 million clothes in your wardrobe that you have not worn could benefit families. There are people who wear literally rags. If you check their wardrobe, you look at their things, they have rags. And those many clothes you are just hoarding will be of benefit to them. So if you think to that, perhaps it would help, in releasing the emotions and becoming easier to part with that. There's
Right.
also the fact that you need to like be patient with yourself as well. I think sometimes when we're trying to change bad habits, we go at it almost like we're going to war. And because it's a sudden change, the brain is not accustomed to taking in such. It's almost like an adversity as well. So perhaps you do like a challenge. If you are struggling with that emotional attachment, yeah, you could do like a challenge, like a 5 day challenge or a 7 day challenge where you part with something every day. It makes the emotional loss feeling less. Like it's not as poignant as it would have been if you parted with everything, together. But let me stop there.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Aisha. We'll take a quick breather and just come back in and, of course, continue the conversation. And Tolu's going to explain to us better how she's able to, should I say, help with the decluttering process for those who have difficulties doing that. Lagos Talks, we'll be back in a bit. Don't go anywhere.
Question.
All right, here we go. Alrighty. Welcome back to Lagos Talks on your Love Music, Love Life station, Smooth 98.1. A feel good Friday morning. A great day to talk about mental health and, of course, the benefits of decluttering as well. Ayokunmi Kekirekon right here with you. Alongside me is Tolulope Alade and, of course, Aisha Adams. And they've been serving us with some really good nuggets of wisdom this morning, talking about decluttering and living in an environment that is free of any, as they say, jagbajantis. Yes, that is the word. I don't know how I haven't used that all day because that's a word that my parents used to use a lot growing up. Anyways, join us on the conversation by sharing your thoughts on 0809 440 981. 0809 440 981. If you had that sort of situation where you had a cluttered home, you grew up in a home where you had a lot of things being kept hoarded from time immemorial, how are you able to deal with that? Do you still do those sort of things? Have you taken on that trait more or less, and you still hoard things right now? Are you trying to get out of that particular habit and you want to break that trend, as it were? Come through and share your experiences with us. We're also on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM, Smooth 91 FM Lagos. Yes, Smooth 981 FM Lagos on YouTube. All right, so let me come back to you right now and talk about generous me. I mean, like I said, it's a very generous thing that you actually do. Had to play on that one. Now, how exactly does your organization support individuals in the decluttering process? Is there a holding of hands and all that?
So no, not literally holding hands, but what one thing we do is we are a bridge.
Okay.
Beginners me started from, oh Tolu, I have items, I don't know what to do with them. I These things are just sitting in place, and of course there are also the people that are relocating and things like that. I am not going to carry all of these things. So what do I do with them? And what we do is we support through the process, and I think it's more like a psychological support, just knowing that, oh, by the time I declutter, I don't have to start thinking of where to drop these things. I don't have to start thinking of who do I give it to.
Okay.
And then, so what we do is when people have set aside the items they want to give away, we go pick up from them. We have people who go pick up from the donors, and
Okay.
then we also have some donors who just send them across to like the central location where we sort these items.
Okay.
So we have taken away, we are helping them to remove that hurdle of how do I get it across to the people that need them. So we are that bridge between the people who have and the people who don't have so much.
Okay.
And when they're
Okay.
ready to declare, when they're done decluttering, it's ready. All they need to do is just complete the form on the website, or just even reach out to us offline, and then we go to their doorstep literally and pick up from them. And then for those people who actually want to send them across, they can also send them across to us. So when we aggregate these items, we do this in Lagos and Abuja. Once we collect these items, we sort them. There will still be some items that are not exactly in very good condition, because what we focus on is these items must be in good condition.
Okay.
So once we get them together, aggregate them, and then we go to communities that need these items, and then we essentially just distribute them to the people in the communities. Sometimes as well, we go to orphanages if we have a lot of clothing items or toys, books, bags for kids. So we go to orphanages and then we go drop these things across. So what we're doing is helping donors give and making it a lot seamless for them to do that.
Making it a lot seamless makes quite a difference, because sometimes one might have the intention of actually giving things out, but then they don't have an avenue
Yep.
to get these things, and then that probably just speak to them. I can't find a way to get it out. Let me just keep it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And of course, giving to these communities, giving to these people who actually need them. Now, from your first-hand experiences, because you are more or less out there in the battlefield at the forefront, what are the effects of decluttering from the point of view of those who have, and the donation of these items to the community? How much of an impact does it have on those who receive these items? Looking at where we are right now and what is going on as a collective in Lagos and Abuja generally.
Yeah. So before I even go to the beneficiaries, I will even start with the donors. We've been talking a lot about mental health. It helps them to declutter their minds. And just knowing, oh, I'm doing good, it does a lot. Now, for the beneficiaries, we go into these communities, because when we are doing this, we call it an outreach, and when we are giving these items out to people, we actually spend time with them. So
Okay.
it's not
Okay.
just we
Okay.
drop it off. It's like an event. We have a DJ on ground.
Oh,
It's an
really?
entire
You
fiesta.
turn up.
It's a party,
Huh.
right? It's so you
Where have
just
I been?
you can join us on the next one. So it's essentially like having a yard sale, but you're coming to pick up for free. That's
Okay.
how it
Okay.
works. So we have all the items laid out, well arranged, well packaged, and then these beneficiaries are coming and they are shopping for free. Essentially, that is how it works. You are listening to music, you're dancing, you're interacting with some of the volunteers on ground,
Hmm.
even amongst, because I mean they are a community, so they know themselves. And then, oh, I need to go and call Mama Bifika, I need to go and call Papa. They
And
go
they
call
just
them so that
gather each
everybody is
other.
the kids, the men, the women, everybody is just there. So it's always just seeing the smiles on their faces, yeah, and these items we actually end up giving to them are because you have like designer wares. They are not just like, it's not like what they call these things, is it bend down collect type of items, because
Hmm.
the donors are actually people, these are things that they have used and they are in very good condition.
Right.
Like there are
Right.
some times I even see some donation items and I'm like, am I sure I'm not a needy? Because I'm seeing like designer brands, bags, like really good shoes and clothes, and then when it's these people in the community, they're like, oh my, I can actually use something like this for free.
Hmm.
So there is that joy on their face, there is that happiness. And then when we are even there, we're having like play areas for the kids, we're having sometimes face painting for the kids. So it's humane, it's decent, and just seeing the impact it has on their lives. You have sometimes maybe some widows will come and they are like, oh, I was actually just thinking of how am I going to get clothes for my kids,
Hmm.
and I have just come here. I'm able to get at least 3 clothing items for my daughter.
That's
There
awesome
was a
stuff.
time we went to a community and there was a child that was physically challenged. He came in just underwear, no shoes, no clothes, and he was able to get clothing items that fit him. And as he was limping, living in his new shoes, in his new clothes, you could see the joy in his face. That is the impact of what we're doing.
Hmm.
And that is the effect that we are happy that, we're able to make in the lives of these people.
That is absolutely amazing stuff. And you know what? It feels like I don't want this conversation to end, but it'll have to at some point. But before it does, we need to touch on a couple of things. A quick break right now. When we come back in, Aisha, I'm going to come to you with that question that I've had in the palm of my right hand, not left. I'm left-handed, so I can eat with that. We'll come back. Lagos Talks, Smooth 98.1. Don't go anywhere. All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. Feel Good Friday morning. Ayokunmi Kekirekum. Once again with you. Alongside me is Tolulope Alade and Aisha Adams as well. We've been talking about the benefits of decluttering for mental health. Mental health is something that we definitely should take more seriously. Don't joke with your
Yeah.
mental health. As Aisha said earlier, your mental health plays a big part in even how you are feeling physically.
Mhm.
So share your experiences with us on 0809 444 That's on WhatsApp. JLo says, I love this service. My decluttering has turned to moving it around from one from one room to the other. That's
It's changing ministry.
I'm actually glad you said moving because that's not decluttering at all. That's just transfer. You're not decluttering. I'm sorry,
Honestly, I don't
JLo.
know why we do what we do. It's just
No, I can understand JLo fully because I've also been guilty of transferring from one point to another. Yeah, it's what we do. It's what we do. But anyways, JLo, no worries. Before the show is done, Tolulope will be sharing some contact information. So just keep it tuned to the show as we get along. Now, Aisha, that question that I had in the palm of my right hand once again is now, some people have said that over time that the reason that our parents had a lot of things stemmed from times of conflict when they had a lot and then conflict came, war and all that, and then they lost everything, and then they began to get themselves back together and had this mindset of this happened before, we don't want this to happen again, affliction will not rise a second time, so let us gather as much as we can. And this then tends to rub off on the kids as well, because I think I have a little bit of that streak. My mother used to gather things a lot, the kind of person that she would have
you mean she
something.
used to hoard?
She used to gather things a lot.
Just call it what
Okay,
it is.
okay, hoard.
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 Hoarding.
Hoard.
Okay.
Thanks for pressing my neck on that one. And sometimes I think it's like I like to pack things together and all that. But really, is that something that is factual? The fact that parents had those experiences and then they began to hoard things, and it then passes on
Yeah,
to
it's actually one of the reasons for hoarding. Actually, I talked about it earlier, like family history of hoarding. There's always family history to play in anything that has to do with our health. You did not fall from heaven. You came
Mm,
through someone. There's a channel. And the reality is that if I asked you why do you do what you do, you say, "Oh no, I like to do it." Do you like to do it, or was it how the environment shaped you? If you
mm,
weren't living in Nigeria, if you weren't born in Nigeria, if you were born in Cotonou or you were born in Vietnam, would you have the habits you have? So the truth is that our environment does impact how we show up in the world. Our community does impact our culture, our religion.
mm.
We have those personality traits for a reason, and there is the place of caregivers. There's something they call adverse childhood experience, and it's observed that most of people having traumatic issues later on in life actually stems from adverse childhood experiences, and that's something that happens as a result of your caregivers. So a lot of those
Ah,
things that we pick up unconsciously, because your unconscious mind is you're always at play, and it stores up information. It
okay.
collects over a period of time. So you've been collecting that information of, oh, the way what you learned from your parents is that the way that I relate with things that I have is to store up for the rainy day.
Mm,
It's a scarcity mindset. That's where it stems from, and it's a trauma response. So what do you do to trauma response? Do you continue to regurgitate it and pass it on to the next generation, or do you decide to cleanse it? So think about a cup filled with water, dirty water. Now let the dirty water signify trauma. Now what do you do with the dirty water? It means that if you continue to pour in clean water, after a while, what happens? The water becomes pure.
comes. Mm, mm,
That's it.
mm, mm.
And that's this analogy for trauma. So if your parents have a trauma response to a certain problem that happened, a traumatic event, do you continue to embrace that traumatic response? Because the truth is that trauma is also passed down from generation. So most of us, if you, I always tell people, if you are alive and you are over 3 years old, you are traumatized. Don't worry. So we are all
Do
in
you
need
mean
of
do you mean
therapy.
in Nigeria or generally speaking?
Generally, actually,
Okay.
but especially in Africa, because we
Ah,
also have the problem of slave trade that we are all still traumatized for. We haven't really gotten out of it. So therapy is not. People think it's a luxury, but it isn't really. It's a necessity. There is a place of the body, the mind, and the soul.
mm,
Most people are focused on the body and the soul.
not
What
the
happens to
mind.
the mind? And the mind is that which connects the body and the soul together.
Hmm. That
So if you
bridge.
want, yes, it's the bridge. So when you are building a house in the village, and the bridge to the village is not existent, how are you going to fly inside that fine house?
Hmm.
So it's like the car is fine, the house is fine, the bridge non-existent. Come on. And so we need to move away
Interesting.
from that place where we just focus on outlook. We have to look inwards, and we have to work on our minds. Most of the problems we have is linked to our mind. Change your mind, change your life. That's simple.
Hmm. Change your mind, change your life. You know what? If you had a mic in your hand, you just drop it on the floor like, bam.
She drop this.
No, please, please. Change your mind, change your life. Absolutely amazing words there. Okay, now we're getting to the finishing line, or we're more or less at the gate of the house just to open and get in. But in about 30 seconds, I'm coming to both of you on this one. First of all, what final advice would you give to all our amazing listeners out there who might be considering starting their own decluttering journey, but they feel hesitant? I mean, who wants to go first here?
Let me go first.
Okay.
I would say just that. It's the simplest advice, and it has a lot of things included in that simple statement, because they say that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step.
Hmm.
And sometimes when we overcome that hurdle of starting, it makes it a bit easier, whatever it is you want to do. So for decluttering as well, I just recommend to people, just take it one step at a time. Start with
Okay.
one outfit. Just even set aside one cloth.
Hmm.
Set aside one shoe that you don't need anymore. Just put it aside. And as you do it little by little, you begin to gain this momentum. And before you know it, it becomes a natural part of you.
Hmm.
Because most of us, like most people, have already grown through a process, and it took a while to get there. So if you're going to break out of that habit as well of hoarding and keeping clutter, you need to start little by little, one step at a time. Don't put yourself under so much pressure. Just
Right.
start
Right.
small, and then you can go through it.
All right. So Aisha, 30 seconds thereabouts. Yeah. Your thoughts? Yeah.
Okay, so I would say that if you are struggling with the emotional baggage of decluttering, then you need to pay attention to your mental health. And a few things that you can do to improve your mental state is: number one, you need to chill. Like
Relax.
life
Take it
is not
easy.
that. It's hard, but do you understand? You should know what Bruce Lee. Everybody has to be calming down. So you need to reduce stress. Then we need to open our minds to learn new ways. Like we have this thing we say, oh, if you want to hide something from an African, hide it in a book. Come on, like that's old school nonsense. It's about time that we opened our minds to learning and creativity. Those things that you have, how can you tweak it in a way that it benefits somebody else? And then we need to move away from this attitude of I have to be good. Like think about other people when you are thinking about yourself. That selflessness has a way of coming back to you. And lastly, I think that it's important that you realize that it's okay not to be okay all the time. It's okay to seek for help. It's okay to lean on other people. It's okay to admit that you have a problem. We all have problems that we are fixing.
Right.
And
Right.
so reach out and get help. It's a beautiful thing to do.
It's a beautiful thing to do. I feel like I'm in Shangri-La right now. I mean, wise words flying all over the place. I'm so blessed this morning, as we all are. So, look, as we journey out of the studio, I mean, how can our listeners get in touch with you or learn more about your support in decluttering and mental health as well?
Oh, yeah, sure. So it's the Generous Me Welfare Initiative. We are on all social media channels: Instagram, Twitter at Generous Me Cares.
At Generous Me
Yeah, so
Cares.
Generous Me Cares. And Generous Me Welfare Initiative on Facebook and LinkedIn, actually.
Okay. Okay.
On YouTube as well, we're also Generous Me Welfare Initiative. And we are very accessible and very responsive. So that's one way. And we also have a website, www.generousme.com, where people can actually just go fill a very short form, if, when they
Right.
are ready to donate, and then we go pick up from them.
That's it.
It's simple as ABC.
I love simple. Aisha, where can we find you on social media for those who would like to rub minds?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Aisha Adams. So Aishah, the way I spell my name.
Okay.
Aisha Adams.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much to Tolulope Alade and Aisha Adams for gracing us with your presence this morning to share this knowledge and, of course, make us feel a whole lot better. I feel better right now knowing that some things that I've done, I mean, they are normal, but I can change my ways
Yeah,
at the end of
normal.
the day. And I mean, it's
I
normal,
hope to
and then I
see.
can
I
change
look
my
forward to
ways.
seeing you in therapy.
No, and I said no.
I
I
look
said, and I
forward to
can.
seeing
I
you
said, and
in
I can change
therapy.
my ways.
That's why I say I'm
Ehen.
looking forward to seeing you in therapy.
Thank you all so much for joining us on Lagos Talks this morning on Smooth 98.1 Smooth Breakfast. We'll continue more soulful music to settle into your workday.